The men exchanged glances, the transport slowed, then stopped abruptly. Arya stood, masks on, NVGs ready, weapons safety off. Follow my lead. No improvisación. The bearded operator frowned. What's out here? It's just woods. That's what you see, she said. Not what's here. The doors opened. Wind ripped inside, icy and violent. Arya jumped out first. The men followed, and then they saw it. A burning helicopter fuselage torn across the clearing. Smoke pouring into the dark. Rain hissing as it struck flames. Debris scattered across mud and broken roots. The operators froze. What is this? Arya didn't look back. Your evaluation. She drew her weapon. Move. And she walked straight into the smoke. The team scrambled after her. Rain. Fire. Night vision glare. Chaos swirling. And Arya Hale walked through it like a phantom. She didn't flinch, didn't hesitate, didn't show fear, and as the operators followed her deeper into the wrecked clearing for the first time, they wondered if they had underestimated her, badly. The smoke thickened as Arya moved deeper into the crash zone, the orange glow of dying flames reflecting in her eyes. Echo Team followed in a loose wedge formation, their boots sinking into wet mud. The wind roared across the treetops like a caged animal, shoving rain sideways into their faces. The bearded operator, Mason, stepped closer to her. Ma'am, is this a simulation or a real crash? Arya didn't look back. Depends on how you define real. We talking hostiles? Civilians? Down friendlies? All of the above, she said calmly. The men exchanged uneasy glances. The clearing widened, and the full extent of the destruction materialized. The helicopter's tail was sheared off, embedded into the trunk of a massive fallen pine. Scorched metal littered the ground. Rotor blades lay twisted like blackened ribs in the mud. Arya crouched beside a trail of blood leading toward the tree line. Point team, on me. One operator, Vega, approached, rifle raised. You think someone dragged themselves out? Not dragged, Arya said. Pulled. Mason frowned. Pulled? By who? Arya stood, lifted her NVGs, and scanned the tree line with her bare eyes. Eyes that didn't blink, didn't flinch, didn't even reflect fear. Then she stepped forward. Stay tight. Stay quiet. She slipped into the darkness between the trees. Inside the forest swallowed them instantly. Dense, shadow-soaked, choked with mist curling between the trunks like silver smoke. Their boots crunched over wet leaves and broken branches. The rain was caught in the canopy overhead, turning into heavy droplets that thudded against their gear like soft bullets. Arya's pace was measured, controlled, yet fast enough that the men had to keep up. She raised her hand. Everyone froze, and no sound, and no movement. Just breathing, controlled, practiced breathing from elite operators who suddenly felt like amateurs. Arya stepped forward, knelt beside another blood trail, and touched the wet soil, still warm, still fresh. Whoever was pulled, she whispered, is alive. Vega whispered, how can you tell it's not a hostile dragging a body? Arya didn't answer. Instead, she gently placed her fingers on the ground, feeling the spacing of impressions. Then she pointed at the mud. Look at the depth of the footprints. Mason leaned in, squinting. Whoever did this is heavy. No, Arya whispered, fast. She rose. Formation. Move. They continued deeper. Minutes passed, long, suffocating minutes in which the forest seemed to listen to them, analyze them, judge them. Another crash fragment appeared, this time embedded in a tree trunk, smoking lightly. Vega exhaled. Ma'am, this thing exploded mid-air. What kind of op is this? Arya stopped walking. This is a recovery mission. Mason raised an eyebrow. Recover what? Or who? She didn't respond. Instead, she raised her fist, silent command. The team froze. Arya lowered herself slowly into a crouch. Her fingers tightened on her weapon. Her gaze sharpened to a razor edge. Something was ahead. Something breathing. Something waiting. She turned her wrist in a subtle signal. The team raised weapons, muzzles glowing faintly under NVG lenses. Then, a faint whimper echoed through the trees. Human. Painful. afraid. Arya moved first. She traversed the slope like she'd been born on it, sliding between roots and ducking under low branches with uncanny precision. Echo Team followed, slipping, stumbling, slipping again, trying to keep her in sight. They reached a dense patch of brush where the sound grew clearer. Arya dropped to one knee and gently pushed the branches aside, that a man lay bleeding in the mud. Uniform torn, legs shredded by shrapnel. His breathing was rapid, uneven. One eye was swollen shut. He wasn't wearing Echo Team gear. In fact, ma'am, Mason whispered, that's a CIA field harness. Arya nodded once. Help me stabilize him. Vega turned him slightly. Sir, can you hear us? The injured man coughed blood. And, not alone? Who's not alone? Arya asked. He pointed weakly toward the darkness behind them. They took the pilot, dragged him something. His hand fell. Not from death, from unconsciousness. Arya's eyes hardened. Mason, patch his leg. Vega, monitor pulse. Jace, perimeter at 10 meters, clockwise sweep. Mason knelt immediately. Yes, ma'am. But Jace, a tall operator with a shaved head, hesitated. Ma'am, with respect, he whispered, this doesn't feel like standard training. We should know what we're up against. She turned her head slightly. You're up against whoever did that, she said, pointing at the shredded leg. And if you hesitate, you will lose. The message landed. Jace swallowed and moved into position. Arya adjusted the injured man's harness, checking for ID tags. Nothing. Only a serial number stitched inside the flap. She recognized it. Mason noticed her expression subtly shift. You know who he is? Arya didn't answer. Instead, she stood abruptly and walked several feet away, staring into the thick darkness. Her jaw tightened. Her breath slowed. Her entire posture changed. Not tensed, not fearful, but anticipatory, like someone who'd fought this enemy before and survived. The enemy approaches. The forest suddenly went still. No wind, and oh rain hitting leaves, and oh insects, and oh distant crackle of burning metal. Just silence. Arya inhaled once, deep, slow, and controlled. Then she whispered, they're here. Mason froze. Who? Before she answered, Vega hissed into comms. Moving on my left. Fast. Jace whispered. I'm hearing footsteps? No, scrapping. The injured man groaned unconsciously. Arya stepped forward into the darkness. Stay behind me. A branch snapped. Another. The low, guttural hiss echoed through the trees. Too human to be animal, too distorted to be normal. Something moved between the trunks. Something low, something strong, something fast. Mason raised his muzzle. Ma'am, we need to fall back to extraction. No, Arya said sharply. We hold. Why? Arya's voice became ice. Because that thing doesn't chase retreating targets. It hunts them. Before Mason could respond, a shape burst from the darkness, not fully seen, barely visible even in night vision, but fast enough that Vega stumbled back. Contact, he shouted. The shadow lunged. Arya moved first, not backward, forward. She stepped into the creature's trajectory, sidestepped with surgical precision, grabbed its arm, if it was an arm, and slammed it into the ground with a force none of the operators expected from her size. The creature shrieked. IT scrambled, kicking mud as it tried to. Rise. Arya kicked its knee, an anatomical strike, then drove her elbow into the back of what appeared to be its head. Lights, she barked. Echo Team flicked on tactical beams. The creature froze in the light. For a moment, everyone forgot to breathe. That IT was human, but twisted, pale, veins dark as ink, eyes dilated and unfocused. Body shaking with hyperadrenal convulsions that a military uniform shredded across its mottled skin. Mason whispered, horrified, what the hell happened to him? Arya didn't answer, because she knew, and she'd seen it before. A failed enhancement experiment, a black-budget program unofficially called Project Sable. A program she had shut down herself years ago. Or so she thought. Her stomach tightened. If one survived, how many others were in these woods? The creature suddenly erupted, slashing upward toward her throat. Arya moved faster, a blur, a strike, a twist, a snap. The creature went limp, collapsing into the mud. Silence returned. Not natural silence. The heavy, suffocating silence that comes after something unnatural dies. Vega lowered his rifle. Ma'am, you knew what that was. Arya didn't look at him. We need to find the pilot before more arrive. Mason stepped beside her. Ma'am, this wasn't in the brief because there was no brief. What kind of op is this? And who are you to know about whatever that was? Arya tightened her grip on her rifle. Your evaluation isn't about shooting targets. It's about following command, even when you don't understand the full picture. That's not good enough, Mason said. It will have to be. The roundabout truth, Jace rejoined them. Perimeter clear, ma'am. But something's moving east of us. Arya nodded. That's where they took the pilot. We going after them? Vega asked. Yes. What about this guy? Jace pointed at the unconscious CIA officer. Arya turned to Mason. Stabilize him. Then carry him. You want me to carry a full-grown agent through hostile woods while things like that are running around? Yes. Mason stared at her. But Operator Mason, she said quietly. Are you refusing? No, ma'am. Good. Move. The hunt begins. They advance through the forest. Arya led. Vega watched the flank. Mason carried the agent on his back, grunting with each uneven step. Jace scanned rear motion. The others moved silently, as trained. The trail was unmistakable. Mud churned by frantic movement, broken branches, droplets of blood leading deeper into the night. Arya's breathing was steady, measured, almost too calm. Mason huffed behind her, trying to keep pace. Ma'am, how do you know this pilot's alive? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The blood patterns told her. The drag prints told her. And the method of extraction. It had the signature of something she prayed she'd never see again. But she was wrong that IT wasn't dead. IT had evolved. Her hands tightened around her rifle. Mason caught the shift. You're not scared, he muttered. You're angry. Arya didn't respond. But the flicker in her eyes said it all. Angry was an understatement. The lost facility, they emerged into a clearing. Vega froze. Ma'am, what the hell is this place? A facility long abandoned, cloaked in vines and moss, sat partially sunken into the earth. Concrete walls cracked from years of neglect. Metal doors rusted shut. A tall fence, broken in several places, encircled it like ribs around a corpse. IT looked like a forgotten bunker. But Arya knew better. She walked toward the entrance without hesitation. Mason grabbed her arm instinctively. Ma'am, this is one of their sites, isn't it? She didn't deny it. Vega lowered his rifle slightly. How long? How long have you known about places like this? Arya finally spoke. Since before any of you joined the Navy. You shut them down, Mason said. I heard rumors about a woman who helped expose black site bioprograms. Some said she was killed. Some said she disappeared. Arya glanced at him. I disappeared. Jace swallowed. Why bring us here? If this place is active, it's not active, she said. She stepped past them toward the rusted metal doors. It's worse. Inside the bunker, the doors groaned when she pushed them. The stench hit instantly. Chemical rot mixed with metallic decay. Vega gagged. Jesus. Arya didn't react. She stepped inside, boots echoing across abandoned corridors littered with cracked glass, overturned equipment, and dark stains that told their own stories. Mason followed, carrying the agent. Jace and Vega flanked. Inside, the facility branched into 3 hallways. Arya scanned each one, then she pointed at the leftmost corridor, down there. That's where they took the pilot. Vega squinted. How can you be sure? There's no sign. Arya exhaled. There is. She pointed at the faintest scratch marks along the wall. Deep grooves gouged into concrete, as if something with incredible strength had dragged a body around the corner. The men shuddered. Arya moved forward. Flashlights swept over rusted surgical tables, shattered containment chambers, dried stains splattered on glass walls, and old restraints bolted to the floor. Ma'am, Vega whispered. What did they do here? Arya's voice remained neutral. Human enhancement. They wanted to create operatives who felt no fear, no pain, no hesitation. Mason inhaled sharply. And the side effects? Arya paused. Everything you saw in the woods. And you shut this down? Not alone, she said. But I was the last one to walk out alive. They continued deeper into the facility. The air grew colder, darker, heavier. They reached a long, metal door, half open, bent inward, as if something had forced its way inside. Arya raised her hand. Weapons lifted. She kicked the door fully open. The room inside was large, circular, lined with broken containment pods. Some shattered from within, others smeared with dark fingerprints. In the center lay the pilot, alive but barely conscious, tied by restraints clearly applied by something that didn't understand human tools. Mason moved forward. "Sir, we've got you. Stop!" Arya snapped. Everyone froze. Arya stepped slowly toward the pilot, eyes scanning the metal floor. That's when Vega noticed it. "Ma'am, the restraints. They're not tied. They are wedged." Arya nodded once. "It means he wasn't tied by hands." Jace's breath caught. "Ma'am, we need to pull back. Now." Arya shook her head. "If we turn our backs, we die." The pilot groaned. "They're still here." Arya tightened her grip on her weapon. "They're not here," she said. "They're above us." The ceiling creaked. Something shifted in the vents. Mason whispered hoarsely, "Ma'am." Arya raised her rifle, and the grid exploded open. Not one creature. Not 2.4, dropping from above like shadows given flesh. Muzzled faces, dilated eyes, muscle fibers twitching with unstable enhancements. Human enough to remember killing, animal enough to enjoy it. Echo team stepped back, weapons raised. Arya didn't step back. She stepped forward. The creatures hissed, circling. Mason shouted, "Ma'am, fall back." Arya didn't. She whispered, "Stay behind me." The creatures lunged, and Arya Hale met them head-on. The four enhanced creatures launched at once, claws scraping metal, mouths open in silent screams. Echo team braced for impact, but Arya Hale moved faster than any of them had ever seen. She stepped into the first attack, striking the creature's throat with the heel of her palm. A wet crack echoed as it collapsed. The second creature leapt from the left. Arya pivoted, grabbed its arm mid-air, twisted, and slammed it head first into the steel floor. Vega whispered, stunned, "Is she even human?" The third creature slammed in her back. Yet instead of knocking her down, she rolled with it, using its momentum, flipping it over her shoulder and firing a single controlled shot into its skull. The fourth hesitated. It sensed something wrong, something it couldn't understand. Arya stepped toward it, calm, deliberate. The creature backed away, trembling, confused by fear it had never been engineered to feel. She raised her weapon. "You should have stayed dead." One shot. Silence. The facility went still. Echo team stared at her, their breathing loud, their hearts pounding. Arya turned to them. "Secure the pilot." "Mason, get the agent stabilized. We're moving." No one argued, and no one doubted her anymore. Not after what they'd seen. Extraction, it took them 10 minutes to retreat through the bunker, carrying both survivors. Arya led again. Silent, sharp, hyper-aware, clearing corners with the precision seals only dreamed of. Outside, the storm had softened, rain falling like a quiet curtain around the ruined facility. A rescue helicopter roared overhead. When the team reached the clearing, medics rushed in to take the injured men. Mason lowered the CIA agent, wiped his forehead, then walked toward Arya. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "we misjudged you. All of us." Arya looked at him. "I know." Vega stepped forward too. "What you did back there wasn't training level. It wasn't normal." "Who are you really?" Arya exhaled softly. "Someone who spent a long time fighting shadows that weren't supposed to exist." Jace nodded slowly. "And you're our superior now?" She gave him a faint smile. "Only for today." Rourke approached from the landing zone. Still soaked from the rain, still stunned by what he'd heard in the comms, he walked right up to her. For once, the man who never bowed his head lowered his eyes. "I was wrong," he muttered. "About everything." Arya simply adjusted her gloves, then learned from it. Rourke swallowed. "If you ever come back to this base, you'll always have a team." Arya nodded politely. "Thank you, Commander." The medics finished loading the injured onto the helicopter. Echo team stood beside Arya, waiting for their final orders. She looked at each of them. The men who had mocked her, doubted her, resisted her, and now stood ready to follow her anywhere. You did well, she said quietly. Remember this. Leadership isn't about size, noise, or rank. It's about clarity under pressure and choosing courage when fear is easier. The men straightened their backs. Arya turned toward the helicopter ramp. The wind whipped her coat as she stepped aboard. Mason called out, "Ma'am, one last question." She paused, but he swallowed. "If the seal asked you again, where's your superior?" She turned her head slightly, eyes sharp, calm, unshakable. "I'd give the same answer." A faint smile touched her lips, standing right in front of you. The helicopter lifted into the stormy sky. Echo Team watched her disappear into the clouds. Not as an outsider, not as an attachment, but as the deadliest leader they had ever seen, and the mission was complete.